I want to give you a couple of quick updates first, and then we can jump into questions. Again, use the chat function. I just go right from the top and just move right down. If for some reason I skip your question, it's an accident. Just repost it. I'll try to get to it. So, a couple of things. A follow up on last couple updates. We have confirmed with Lee County and their Ian storm debris pickup schedule. It looks like we may see them in our community in full next week. We've actually got a flyer that we'll email out and put on Facebook later this weekend or Monday that kind of just reminds you of what we've been telling you really from the get-go, and that is for them to have the most efficient pickup, we really need everything separated into piles. Landscape debris would be a pile. Housing remnants would be a pile. Appliances would be a pile. So that would help when they get in here to actually get everything cleaned up, at least to this point. So we will let you know if we know the day they're going to be here. I'm not guaranteed that we will know that day, but I do know we have officially been recognized by them as a community in need. They have access now, entry access. We've allowed them, we had to fill out a form to come into our community, and we know that their crew is in Iona right now and working their way towards us. So an update on security. I know obviously big concern. I mean, one of the biggest losses, not one of the biggest losses, but one of the losses we had was both of the computer boxes at the back gates were flooded out. Those parts and those boxes have been ordered. I don't have a delivery date yet, but as soon as they're here, they will be installed. We have to check to make sure we have Comcast back there, and then we can get those gates operational. As we've mentioned before, there's no way we cannot leave those gates open because of EMS protocols. So that's why they've been open during this time, but we're hopeful we're getting towards a resolution. A couple of things that we have ramped up recently. We are making more rover loops with our gate staff throughout the community, especially at night, to keep an eye on things. And also we're working with Clyde Johnson's company. They have safety and security people on their team, and we're coordinating with them to assist us both with security checks and fire watch, because we still have some areas of some buildings that need fixing to the fire system, whether it's an electrical issue or something else. So those buildings actually have to be visually checked on the outside every 30 minutes. So that's happening as well. Even with those efforts, it doesn't mean that we're not seeing and hearing reports of what I'm going to call junkers coming around, going through debris pile. We're trying our best to chase those folks away, but encourage everybody, if you see something like that, or you see anything from a suspicious side, call the front gate and call Lee County Sheriff's Office. That's the one thing we do have is a great rapport with them, and they will respond quickly. If you see anything, definitely have gotten reports of this, but also want to kind of put that in perspective. I mean, it's not widespread issues throughout the community. I think for the most part, everybody's been doing a great job looking after each other. And then the other thing in regards to that, because this definitely came up once this past week, is, and we've been trying to caution everybody, be very careful of any contractor that you hire. We've always suggested, business license from Florida, certificate of insurance. I suggest references on contractors. I mean, whether they're coming in to replace your AC unit or your garage door, we strongly advise using our preferred vendor list, but also understand that those folks may not be available. And if it's an emergency need, you've got to get it fixed. But just cautioning on, scrutinizing any contractor. And absolutely, I wouldn't engage with anybody that happens to just come upon you and ask if you need something. I mean, that's when you probably want to make a report to the front gate if you see that happening. So just keep that in mind. Also want to just touched on briefly, we spent time on it Thursday, but just in regards to, what we're dealing with in terms of the process how your associations are handled when it comes to the process of remediation and restoration. Reminder, living in a Florida condo association, the reality is you are the unit owner, but really you don't have ownership or responsibility of pretty much all the things that are covered in that master flood policy. The walls, the floors, the cabinetry. I mean, anything that's covered there is really the association's responsibility to remediate and to restore. And I know for some that is a tough concept to grasp, because many of you have come in, you've purchased your unit, you've put in beautiful counters and beautiful cabinets, and nobody wants those destroyed. But what these associations have done to get to this point in the process is they've engaged an outside independent contractor who has come in, and they're still working. They've got another day left, and they're water mapping every building in each association to determine the extent of the water damage. One of the first findings they confirmed was the water that we are all dealing with in these units is Cat 3 water. It's really the dirtiest and the worst water that you can have, to deal with. And the gold standard to remediate that it's quite simple. I mean, any porous object, anything porous that the water came in touch with, the only way to remediate is to dispose of it. You can't clean it. The problem is areas, especially, your cabinets, your wood surfaces, some of the foam board, that would be behind your tile in your tub and shower. If that water touched that, it really got sucked into that and absorbed it. And now you've got all of those nasty organisms that are living in there. And it doesn't matter if it's dried out, because these organisms don't need water to survive all the time. So, the decision to proceed the way these associations have, and the announcements that they made earlier this week in terms of the closing of these first floor units, was driven by this independent contractor, as well as your insurance companies that hold that master flood policy. They've all confirmed that the best remediation is what we're doing. And I hope you all understand that when you're dealing with insurance companies, if you don't follow their instructions, you're going to jeopardize the ability to recoup losses on that claim. So, at the end of the day, yes, the board announced this, but really the board didn't have to make a decision. I mean, they're bound to follow, especially the insurance adjusters and agencies' recommendations to remediate. So, and I know it's emotional for people, and I know it's a tough time, but don't hold it against a board member, that they made the wrong decision, and certainly don't take the approach of, I'm not getting out of my unit, because in reality, again, the board and your association has that authority. They can close in emergency situations, and they can ask you to vacate. And we don't want rough situations, but if your unit has been deemed uninhabitable because we've got to pull all these things out, then that is just the reality of what we're dealing with today. I mean, there's no gray area there. So just a reminder on that. I will say though, and we did mention this, Somerset Villas, I mean, you're really the only one in this boat. And if you go back and review the notification we sent out, there's a paragraph describing this. And I know not everybody probably read that paragraph. You probably focused on some other things, but in Somerset, we are aware that there are reports that some buildings took no water. Okay. And that's a great thing. And what we reported, or what your board put out the other day, alluded to that when the water mapping process is over, if it's determined that there is a building or a unit in a building that didn't take water or doesn't need this extreme remediation effort, we are going to notify you of that, and you will not have to vacate. So that has already been put out there, but that process has to conclude. And then we have to make sure that we understand who those folks are and we contact them. We're being told that the water mapping process will end by Monday, and we will have the full report for all 5 associations on Tuesday. So the hope is we can notify those folks. But I will tell you, talking to these mappers, I mean, this is, we're dealing with 98%, if not higher, of you that took water, and that water was in contact with porous surfaces, especially your cabinets, et cetera. So that's going to require this thorough of remediation. So those that are the exceptions are truly the exceptions here. The other thing that we're learning, and it's just part of the process, is for those that are here, we've got a lot of equipment in these units. And like with any equipment, there's going to be malfunctions. There's going to be trips. Breakers are going to be going off, and power to those units are going to go off. If you're still here, and if you see in your unit that something isn't running correctly, simply send me an email. That's all you need to do. And we've got teams out there with Clyde Johnson that literally are going out there and troubleshooting these things. And a lot of things can happen. And unfortunately, we've had pipes that have disengaged or not been set up correctly, or tubes from these dehumidifiers, and that's caused water leakage. So these are things that we're just going to have to deal with as we go. We've got 500 units, and pretty much all of them have equipment either in place or ready to go. So keep us posted. Keep that communication line coming both ways, and we've got strike teams. The other thing I'll say is I honestly don't remember each morning what day of the week it is, and I'm sure you guys are the same. I mean, so it's hard to really imagine where we've come from. But, in reality, your association has engaged Clyde Johnson 10 days ago. So we're only 10 days in a massive, massive project. And I can tell you pretty much a lot of our energy the first 10 days has really been on emergency management of this, chasing around, trying to find units that still had carpet in them, trying to troubleshoot water leaking from roofs, things like that. There's a point in time, and we're approaching that, where this process will get much more organized, much more streamlined, much more efficient, and we'll be able to kind of keep you updated more proactively what's going on. But I'll be honest with you, yes, we're all chasing our tails a little bit right now, but that's because we're scrambling to try to take care of some of these things that pop up. So bear with us. This process and doing it the way that we're doing will be the best approach, and we will optimize it. We're not there yet, but every day we're working towards that. So your appreciation or your patience is appreciated. Last thing, we announced, and we had emails go out here the last couple of days on this outreach program that our management staff here at Lexington is really taking the ball and running with. And, what we're looking to do is to identify those of you that are most impacted with having to relocate. So, and I know relocating isn't good for anybody, but I know there's also people that, even though you don't like your sister-in-law that lives down the street, that is an option for you to go there for a month and stay there. And we'd encourage you to do that. We're talking about those of you that literally have zero options, that can't leave the area because you're working here. You don't have family to go to. We're trying to identify those and prioritize those folks first. So if you're one of them, please come by the club starting Monday at 10 a.m. We're going to have that center open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It is not going to be first come, first prioritize. So you all don't need to come here at 10 a.m. on Monday. As a matter of fact, I would suggest some of you all decide to come Tuesday morning as well, because all you're going to do is probably stand in line for a while. But come see us. We'll have a questionnaire for you to fill out. We're going to give you a chance to talk with the staff member. We're going to try to determine, what that priority list. And we've also reached out to our community, both in the gates and outside the gates. And I think we're collecting a very good list of resources that hopefully will help guide you in finding a place to stay while we get this project underway in earnest. And that is our goal, is when we've talked to everybody, that we can help with providing you resources that maybe weren't available to you on your own, to try to find some place to stay in the interim. And so we're going to work towards that. So, and also just a special thank you. I don't know how many of you are on this Zoom, but the people that have reached out inside the gates and have offered their units for other Lexington people, I appreciate it. I can tell you, I've got a good list already of people that contacted me, and that's where we're going to start with this priority list. Is we're going to start the most highly prioritized folks, getting the list of those units, and those of you that have responded, we really appreciate that. So All right, I see 62 questions. So I'm hoping some of these are the same questions, but if they're not, I may need to get another bottle of water. So hang on a minute here. Group question: my insurance company's displacement relocation clause will pay me $1,750 max 30-day period. My FEMA adjuster will not pay me anything because FEMA says my home is inhabitable but needs minor remediation. Should I send my uncovered rent bill to Lexington to pay? No, unfortunately, you shouldn't send your rent to Lexington to pay. I think I mentioned in Thursday's conversation that some of you definitely may have some personal insurance that can help you through this. I'm not sure about your FEMA adjuster, but I can tell you this, that we do plan to be able to give to you all some written documentation, hopefully later this week, in terms of what your association's doing and why they're doing it. And maybe that will help you make a better case with any insurance agent or any FEMA adjuster that's giving you problems. So how are the plantation shutters being handled based on the drywall removal? That's a good question. I've asked Clyde Johnson's group to check into that because I'm getting more and more responses or more and more questions about that. I don't have an answer for you on that right now. So let me get back with you. I do know that second floor and up, if we're dealing with plantation shutters or anything outside the building or anything that wouldn't have been affected by the flood, if it would have been a wind issue, it's an entirely different insurance claim, an entirely different adjusting process. And we may have had one property insurance adjuster in for one association so far, but we have not heard from a lot of property adjusters. So I'll have to kind of delay the answer to that. Why is ServPro okay for estate home and villa homes to use, but we cannot? I have an estimate that they can remediate my condo and get back to me within 3 weeks. This seems to be more cost effective for Lexington's insurance and would give CJC more time to work on homes. So a good question. There was a point in time where if somebody hired an outside contractor, we gave you a process to do that. At this point in the game, that option's no longer effective. The reason estate homes and villa homes can hire those folks is because they're not governed by a Florida condominium association, and they're responsible solely for their property. Whereas what we're dealing with in remediation, other than your personal property, is the association's responsibility. And whereas I am sure there are many of you out there that we would have confidence in going in and hiring a credible company and doing this right, I would also think that if you think about this reasonably, it would be impossible to say that's how we're going to approach it with everybody and then have to manage 500 different units with different contractors. So again, I mentioned before, I don't think we've quite seen the synergies and the benefits of doing that this way yet, because we're still transitioning from emergency management to really organizational management. But I believe you will start to see that as we get moving. Can you clarify if furniture should be disposed of if it is being exposed to Cat 3? So, again, at the end of the day, personal property is 100% your discretion. So I'm not giving you professional advice on this. What I can tell you is what we are hearing from the teams that are here doing water mapping is, Cat 3, the gold standard in remediation. Anything that has been touched by this water that has a porous surface needs to be discarded. Who pays for AC repair? At the end of the day, AC repair or AC replacement is covered under your master flood policy. However, as we've stated before, if you want to pursue getting this remedied, you may do that on your own and hang on to your expenses, and there will be a process in place down the road to include that into the claim and get reimbursed. Again, if it's a vendor you're bringing in, please make sure they've got a Florida license, make sure that they understand this is an insurance claim and they document that the damage was from saltwater intrusion or from the storm surge. So if we're using our restoration contract, we're required to do the 4-foot flood cut if a 2-foot flood cut meets the requirement of the 1 foot above water line. So unfortunately, no. And the reason is, we'll go back to what I said earlier, in that we are strictly following the guidance of the insurance adjusters. And every adjuster that we've spoken to so far says 4-foot cut. And one of the reasons is, even though it may seem excessive if you've only got 3 inches of water, from a cost and timing perspective, it is easier to put a full sheet of drywall up than it is to make a cut down the middle and use 2 feet pieces and then have to have that extra tape and mud process. So that is the reason why it looks like the gold standard for all associations is going to be a 4-foot cut. Well, owners get to see the water mapping report. I would imagine, yes, I can't imagine why this wouldn't be available. It's going to be an association decision. But again, there's nothing that needs to be hidden, and certainly expressing to everybody the damage that they have will hopefully help those that aren't convinced yet of what needs to be done. May you keep your appliances. Again, my understanding, not professional advice though, most appliances are not porous surfaces, so they should be able to be cleaned. I think there's plenty of information out on the internet on how to clean Cat 3 water off of non-porous surfaces, so I encourage you to look at that. Will wood floor be taking out the same time as the drywall and cutting cupboard and removal? So let me touch on the flooring. What we're finding and what it looks like will be the norm is tile floors should be salvageable. There may be a rare occurrence where they see water got underneath it, but it looks like tile will be saved, and then they'll go through a deep cleaning and potentially a regrouting process to restore those. I'm hearing that the term that they're using is any other engineered flooring, even though it's a hard surface, will probably come out. And just so you know the process, and some of you may have seen this, I think there's a couple of crews in Southmont Cove that are at this point. But once this gets going in earnest this week, what you're going to see is specialized crews coming in systematically. So you're going to have a crew that's going to come in and they're going to take care of the flooring. Then you're going to have a crew come in and take care of the drywall. Then you're going to have any wall cuts. You're going to have a crew come in and take care of the cabinets. And then a crew's going to come in behind them and basically do a thorough cleanup of the surfaces that are left there. So it's going to be happening on a staggered. It's not one crew that comes into a unit and does all these things. These are specialized crews that'll be moving hopefully succinctly throughout the community soon. Reminder to keep debris off the streets. Absolutely. We want that debris to be easily accessible to these grapple trucks that'll be coming through here with Lee County. Those are the big trucks with the big arms on them. And you've probably seen them driving down Summerlin. It's just those double tandem trucks that'll be here, but that'll help us to determine if furniture is okay. I think I just mentioned that. We're here at Sutton Walk. I heard the stormwater was black water and that everything in the garage must be removed, including wooden shelving. Would the LCA contractor do this? And does this Sutton Walk flood insurance policy cover this? So again, the master policy covers everything but personal property. So if it's something that's included that's not personal property, it will be covered. Again, if we're talking about drywall, things that can't be cleaned, then it's going to have to be removed. Do you need to empty your closets, kitchen, pantry? And we put that in that notice, and we talked about it 2 days ago. If you're here and you can help get things out of your lower cabinets and get them to higher ground, albeit the upper cabinets, or even if you've got a couch that saved it, or if you got a hard table, stack it there. What's happening is once the crews get to your unit, they're going to basically collect all of the personal property that's in the way into centers of rooms, and they're going to cover it with plastic to protect it. However, if you're not here and your lower cabinets were not cleared out, they are going to do that for you, yes. But anything you can do to keep the process speeding along is best. And obviously, if they do it for us, there's going to be a charge associated. So it's going to be cheaper in the long run. So how can you best prepare your garages for future remediation? I suggest the same approach. Anything that you're saving, anything that you're just cleaning, push to the middle of the garage. I mean, essentially what they're going to be working on in garages is drywall cuts, potentially floor cleaning, things like that. So I would do the best to try to keep things out of the way, because it'll just keep things moving. There are individuals in pickup trucks garbage picking last evening. Yes, we just addressed that. Call the front gate, call Lee County. I wouldn't engage them, but we know, I mean, definitely, I think from the start of this, that has been the reports I've gotten from time to time. Again, not widespread, that I'm calling them junkers, people coming around thinking it's okay to pull stuff out of your junk pile. And I can tell you, we're not immune to that. I mean, it's happening all over Lee County. So How do we get special instructions at CJC regarding our own flooring and cabinet subcontractors? So that's restoration phase. And I'm only going to say this about the restoration phase, and that is we're still putting those details together. However, I can absolutely see one option that you all will have is to hire your own subcontractor to restore your unit. So you wouldn't, I wouldn't expect Clyde Johnson to come in and manage that process if you have subcontractors that already did work for you or people that you want to use or you want to do something special. I can see Clyde Johnson and maybe even another vendor or two being on site during restoration and them offering certain packages where whoever signs up with them basically are getting the same level of restoration, but maybe you're picking a different color or you're picking between different colors or something like that. Vinyl tile over the old ceramic tile, would they remove? Now, if you've got vinyl tile over ceramic tile, I would assume they're going to try to be able to pull that vinyl tile up. But again, I think that would be a case by case too. Will they be checking for water damage before ripping out cabinets, especially in wet areas where got very little water? That's the first. I'll get to the second question too. The first question there, I think that's a good point, is, it's not just about the water touching the cabinets. The concern is if that water got behind the cabinets, that water is going to be sucked up in that drywall behind the cabinets. And so that drywall needs to come out. So that really precludes taking out those cabinets. So, but yes, they're absolutely checking on that. But anything that took any level of water in those units are going to have that concern. You're going to have the concern that that water got sucked up into that cabinet. Just because you had 3 inches of water doesn't mean that water didn't come through that porous surface and it's sitting at 5 or 6 inches into your cabinets or 5 to 6 inches into your drywall. That's the issue with porous surfaces and basically sucking this water up there. And just because it's dry doesn't mean that it's okay, because again, these organisms can live in dry climates, and you certainly don't want to deal with issues down the road with the types of things that are in black water. And I won't scare everybody, but you can Google search that and you can see every bad bacteria known to man could be in black water. So countertops, yeah. So all the adjusters are going to write on their report instructing the remediation crew to try to save countertops, and they are going to try. I can tell you, being realistic, talking to our crews here, talking to other people that I know, we're probably going to maybe be able to save 1 in 10. The reality is you go to pull some of those countertops out and you may have joints breaking and things like that, but they're going to try their best. Obviously, they can save the countertop. It's better for you. It's also cheaper on the insurance claim. Okay, I think I covered the garage. Yeah, here's a good question. So I said at last meeting, I stated owners do not own their own air conditioners or water heaters. And if that's the case, why do you pay to purchase and maintain them? So again, that's where there's a lot of confusion, because what is covered under that master flood policy and how your association governs on a day-to-day basis can be different. I mean, your association can require that if your AC unit goes out in normal times, that you're required to pay for. That is policy for all of our associations. However, in terms of what the association is responsible for under the insurance policy, they have coverage to replace those in these events like a flood. So that there are some contradictory items there, but that is the case. The same thing with those of you with garage doors. Chances are, if you have a garage door that needs to be replaced, you in normal times would be required to pay for that replacement. However, under this insurance policy, you're not required to replace it on your own. Post CJC team members at gates. We're talking about that. Resources are the issue for everybody. So I can tell you that I am confident. A lot of our gate staff, the gate staff probably were the most impacted in terms of their personal property, with many of them living in Cape Coral. But I'm hearing from Scott that we may be getting more staff back next week. And that is definitely one of the things that we've talked about, is trying to position some staff out there in the interim while we get that fixed. So that is definitely an option. FEMA adjuster was at our county yesterday, and in the file plater, we have 21 days to get them our insurance settlement info from HOA personnel. Okay, I mean, that's great. They need that. I mean, I can't make any promises we're going to have that in 21 days. I can tell you what the process is for adjusting these claims. These adjusters are coming down. They're entering units. They're taking pictures. And I can tell you the Somerset and Southmont Cove have had probably the biggest effort so far in terms of adjusters on property. And they've both been here over a week and they're both not done. My understanding is once the adjusters are in some communities have multiple adjusters, it's probably going to be a 2-week time frame before we hear something back from the insurance company. So I have no idea if they can meet that 21-day notice. But I am sure that we're not the only community and the only homeowner having a policy that's waiting on adjusters and waiting for insurance companies. So I would think there's flexibility. Good question here. So if the tile flooring doesn't need to be removed because it's not porous, then why is there a need to remove the tile, shower, and tub surrounds? Great question. So almost all of you behind your tile, you definitely have some foam pink board that's behind there that goes to the ground. And a lot of you also have drywall that's back behind that concrete Duraflex product. So the issue is the water that was on the ground getting sucked up into that. And obviously styrofoam probably can't be a worse sponge in terms of collecting water. So that's the reason why those wall cuts will need to be made in those areas, because for the most part, everybody has those porous materials behind it. And it's more than possible. And quite honestly, it's the recommendation of the water mapping folks is it's almost impossible that water didn't get sucked up into those areas. So that's the reason. Phone numbers for Front Gate and Lee County Sheriff's Office. I don't have them right now without getting online, but that information is on our website. Actually here, I could pull up real quick. I'll pull up the Front Gate. I'll give you that direct line. I can't get to that. Front Gate 239-482-0611. 239-482-0611. We're having our appliances removed Sunday. We have photos and serial numbers. Yes, perfect. That's great. Do that. If you don't know for sure if an adjuster's been through your unit, but you want to scrap and you need to get a new fridge, take a photo of the serial number and hang on to that. I will tell you that as much as I'd love to think that they're going to adjust 500 units and then we're going to get those adjustment reports back and we're all going to be happy with them and satisfied, that ain't the case. So there's going to be supplemental claims that'll be made to add things to them, based on things maybe they missed. And if Irma's any example, we're going to have at least 3 years to open claims up or supplement. So please let us know that the Tiki and Club have also had the post remediation certification. Sure. So, I mean, when it comes to water here at the clubhouse, we didn't take on any black water at the clubhouse, and at the Island Club, again, some of the damage that we saw up there again was more rain-forced wind. So that's totally different in terms of remediation. We are currently remediating the golf shop. That took the biggest hit, the most water. But again, we didn't see surging here at the clubhouse for sure at any of the level that you all saw back there. So we're dealing with some different programs, if you will, to remediate that. We get a copy of the CJC master schedule, probably available in their project management software, their software. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what we'll be using. Yeah, they do have a portal. And our hope was this past week to have something to you, but with this kind of right-hand turn now and different approach after the water mapping, I'm hoping this upcoming week we can be able to export some of those reports and give each person or each community an idea of where we're at. If the insurance adjuster said we only needed to go 14 inches, then can we ask CJC to go around? Gotcha. I think I answered that already. I mean, that I don't know what insurance adjuster you talk to, but I've talked to all of them, and I can tell you what they're consistently all putting in their reports is a 4-foot cut. So, I mean, I just talked with another 2 today from Somerset. That's what they're doing. I know Southmont Cove, that's what they're doing. So I don't know what adjuster you talk to, but that's the adjusters I'm talking to. Will full-time renters be eligible for assistance in finding temporary housing? I mean, assistance in terms of us trying to pool some resources together and help you? Yes. I mean, in terms of financial assistance, no, we don't have anything in our wherewithal to provide any financial assistance in this regard. I mean, I wish we did, but I do believe that we can be successful pulling some of our resources together and assisting you in that regard. Where can we store things to get them out of our unit? Any thoughts? No, I don't. I mean, storage absolutely is a hot commodity right now. I mean, there's no storage units that I can tell you call and they have availability. However, if you're persistent, you can continue to touch base with those storage facilities. Maybe something opens up, but that's my best guess. But I mean, storage is one of those things that was swooped up early on, and storage was an issue before this, but now it's even worse. Garage remediation. Golf cart separate policy, or who will buy or tow away. Again, golf cart's going to be your car, and your golf cart's going to be on your personal property, insurance possibly. How best to clean walls in the garage. If you're talking about concrete walls, I don't have a recommendation. I will tell you that even if you've got concrete in your garage, that'll be part of the remediation process with the flood insurance under the master flood policy. Will owners be reimbursed through HOA flood insurance claim for professional removal of countertops by skilled countertop installers to avoid potential for damage? I can't guarantee you that. Again, obviously, if you've got some great countertops, I understand, the concern of keeping them. What I would say is this, if you want to pay for that contractor to take those out, I can't guarantee you that that's going to be reimbursable. I don't know. However, if you want to do that and save the receipts, we'll do all we can to include it in the claim. And then if we get confirmation it's included, then we'll be able to the insurance company will reimburse you. Again, we're not making decisions on reimbursements. We're just going to provide the vehicle to get those receipts onto the claim, and then the insurance company. It was previously mentioned that any countertops damaged by remediation crews will be replaced by HOA insurance claim. Would that also be the case? I'm not sure who mentioned that. I didn't say that. I do know the adjusters have said, try to save the countertops, but if they're not saved, then there will be claim value to replace like in kind on those countertops. I do know that, but I don't think, if I have, I've absolutely misspoke, and I'm sure it would be the first time in the last 2 weeks I've misspoke, but I don't recall ever hearing that or stating that. Evaluate each unit individually. Yes, they are. Vertical blinds on sliding glass door units covered, and should they be discarded? That's a good question. I'd have to go back and review that policy more in depth. I mean, that what we sent out to you maybe a week ago was the 28-page policy, but I honestly don't remember if I did or if I didn't read anything about window coverings, et cetera. So in terms of should they be discarded or saved, again, if it's a porous surface and it was touched by the water, the gold standard is to discard them. How do I dispute the water mapping? Need to see it to dispute it. That's fine. I mean, again, folks, I'll say this as respectfully as I can. It's not your decision on what is done in your unit. I mean, that is pretty black and white. And, you have to understand the association's responsibility here. And they are charged with following the guidance of first, this independent contractor telling your association the level of water intrusion, providing remediation that is an acceptable standard, and then the insurance company signing off on that. I mean, if somebody thinks that they can do their own thing, you are compromising the ability of the entire association to get their insurance claim settled at full value. I don't know how I can be any more clear about that. This isn't an individual decision. I think I mentioned before that I'm sure the water mapping reports will be made available. That's up to your association. But in terms of a dispute process, I really don't know what you're going to dispute here. But hopefully we'll get that to you, and your association will at least. How will CJC know what flooring we had when they had already removed it already? How will they match up the wood cabinets? Yeah, good question. So the flooring, I know with CJC, they were keeping some samples and labeling them. So the adjusters will work with them. Again, if we miss something or if something's not right when that first report gets back, there's always the ability to go back and say, wait a minute, I had this kind of flooring and you said that I had this kind, and we'll handle that. How will they match up my wood cabinets? That's going to be the tough one. And I get that. I mean, you know, the insurance process isn't going to cover cabinets that aren't affected by this water. So your upper cabinets are probably not going to go away. So that's a challenge that I think will need to be handled depending on how the restoration process goes and what you decide to do, albeit hire your own contractor or hire somebody that's provided here through the association. Who will make the final decision if the ceramic, porcelain tiles? Okay, that'll be the water mapping process. I mean, what they've told us, typically with that tile, unless there's visible something visible that shows the tile buckling or what have you, they're pretty much saying that the tile is good. But they've noted areas like that, so that way the remediation crews know to take it up and the adjusters know to include that in their report. The water management process was very basic with no room-to-room list. If there's an analysis of floodwater that determined the hazard, all seems to be based on guesses, not analysis. Yeah, I mean, I'm not so sure it's on guesses, but again, why don't you read the report and we'll go from there. Are you matching lower cabinets? I just mentioned that. Okay, you're saying all these companies out there that they say they can save items from a flood are lying. They can't save items. Okay, you're saying all these companies out there that say they can save items from a flood are lying. Look, folks, I'm not lying. I'm just telling you what the gold standard for Cat 3 water is in terms of remediation. You can look it up online, and I would bet you $1 million there are plenty of companies that are going to come and tell you they can do all kinds of stuff if you pay them the right amount of money. You know, I'm sure they're out there, but Google search Cat 3 water, Google search remediation. I don't think there's anything clear in terms of what we're dealing with in terms of the contaminated water and porous surfaces, but you can make your own decision on your personal property how you wish. Will LCC insurance adjuster give each individual a property report? That's my understanding. Yes. I mean, they're doing this individually. So my understanding is at some point in time, your association is going to know this unit, this is what the adjuster said was impacted. This is what the adjuster said was the value. So I'm assuming. Is the partial remediation only for Sutton Walk? Partial remediation only for, I'm not sure what that question is. Is the partial remediation only for Sutton Walk? I mean, I guess if you mean the announcement of the ground floor units having to vacate, it would only be for Bridgestone because that's the only residential units we have in Sutton Walk on the first floor, but I'm not sure if that's what you mean. After remediation and clean mold tests, I assume we can proceed with our third-party restoration company submitted prior to the, after remediation and clean mold tests, I assume we can proceed with our third-party restoration company submitted prior to 10/15 deadline. The 10/15 deadline was to submit your remediation company. We haven't asked for your restoration company yet, but yes, I mean, as soon as there's a green light, you know, from the remediation crews and your association signs off, I am sure they're going to turn people loose that want to start the restoration process in full. The only thing that I'll say is it's possible that timing and the timing of us getting the full information from your insurance policy in terms of values, they may not match up. It may be that you're ready for restoration, but you don't know yet what the value of that claim is. I can't guarantee where the timing of that all falls in line, but yeah, I mean, at some point, you're going to be given the green light if you want to do it on your own. Can we get that in writing that anything the black water touch can't be saved and must be removed from our, so I mean, that in terms of writing, I mean, that'll be part of the water mapping report for the association. But I mean, again, if it's personal property, there's nothing we're going to provide to you for your personal property that says that. Will owners be able to move back in end of December? I don't know that yet. I mean, I'm hopeful that, I mean, that seems like a long time away. I'm hopeful that's the case. That's what we've asked those in Lexington that want to rent their unit is to make it available at least through December 31st. But part of that date was also because we didn't want to impact those that will be coming down here in January anyways, and not wanting to rent their unit into January. So other than that, I think hopefully we'll know in the next week or so maybe what this timeline is. Will we still have to pay for the amenities, although not able to use them? Yes. Yes, unfortunately, yes. And that goes with your association as well. From an amenities perspective, I mean, I really think, and hopefully I'm not overselling, but I would think by the middle of November, we will have all the amenities back online. Now, we may not have 12 tennis courts to use at that time. I don't know how that's gonna, I don't know how that's gonna go down the next couple of weeks with clay orders and things like that. But I mean, we should be operational fully, with a few exceptions, maybe a few operational changes, but our amenities should be up and running by then. So should we move our appliances out now, or will CJC move them? CJC is not going to move your appliances out to the curbside. So with this recent announcement of Lee County coming and the confirmation that they do want appliance piles, and you're going to get this email and see this here this weekend or Monday, that the little flyer that Lee County has. I would suggest if you've got damaged appliances, yes, get them out roadside in a separate pile from everything else, and that way Lee County can grab them, and it's one less thing you've got to worry about down the road. So my email, what's Joe's email? J Burden, that's J, B as in boy, U-R, D as in dog, E, N as in Nancy, at LexingtonCountryClub.com, all spelled out. So J Burden at LexingtonCountryClub.com. Can LCC vet other general contractors to assist besides CJCs for those owners? Yes, that's our hope. Yeah, and quite honestly, CJC has already said, they're going to take a limited number of restoration projects, but they don't have the wherewithal to do everything. So that is our hope. Is we're hopeful to get some other contractors in here that want to do things on scale, in bulk, if you will. I think the next part of that question is about restoration and not being here. I agree with you. The question is, how would you manage a restoration project if you're not here? Well, the hope is that through this outreach program, especially identifying those of you that aren't able to stay locally somewhere else, to try to maybe do something at the end of remediation to get you back in your unit, and albeit maybe a temporary fix or something, to get those units legally inhabitable. And legally inhabitable, I mean, obviously you need to have a place to take a shower, go to the bathroom, wash your hands. I mean, those are really the three items that need to happen. I think you also need like a bedroom door and a couple other small things, but those are pretty easy. But that's what we're talking about now, is as we identify those most impacted that don't have something local, trying to work with you. Who determines and when whether our appliances are damaged and need to be disposed of? I think at the end of the day, it's the association. I mean, the association, bears the responsibility in terms of the insurance policy. And I can tell you that there probably will be a point in time where they go around and check that, but that's not anytime soon. So, I encourage you with appliances to give those a check. And I think that's what we've mentioned way back from the beginning is, have somebody come down, or you come down, check on your personal property, check that AC unit, check that garage door, check your appliances. And if you want to get those things rolling, get them rolling to get replaced, and then save your receipt. Equipment's in my entry for 7+ days, no contact from CJC, et cetera. So yeah, I've heard a couple of those reports. I know, you've got to, again, I think I mentioned, I mean, I don't believe that we're as organized as we need to be. And that's something that we're working on. You got a lot of people doing a lot of different things. And definitely when we saw those 3 semis pull up earlier this week, there was a lot of urgency just to get equipment out to units so it wasn't being stockpiled here. And definitely there were issues getting those out. I know one of the issues was accessibility. I mean, we're still tracking down owners and keys. some of you have given us keys, and that's great. And in this particular case, maybe we had your key. I can't speak to that case, but I do know that what we've asked Clyde Johnson to do is almost assemble a strike team, if you will, that can, once we're notified of these particular situations, we will send them the next day. So if you've got equipment sitting outside your home, send me an email. It goes on the next day's priority list, and that strike team goes out there and handles it. And again, I'm hoping that as we get through this next week, we don't need to worry about that. We're not dealing reactively. We're looking a bit more proactively and more organized, but give us time on that. My cabinets did not take water, but my sheetrock took. My cabinets did take on water, but my sheetrock took on none. Well, they remediated only the cabinets. Water mapping people came by, but only marked the level outside. The adjuster came by, noted my damage inside. That is not damaged. The bottom of the doors. Much of my units saw no water at all. Will they consider that? I would assume that they would. I mean, that's part of that process. So again, let's see what the report says there. Before we leave, do we need to shut off water, shut off breakers? No, do not shut off water, do not shut off breakers when you leave. Those things potentially will be needed. Plus, we have you do that when you leave in normal times because nobody may be in your unit for weeks or months at a time. In this case, people will be in your unit working. So yeah, report. Should I report if some of our electricity is off, some breakers are off? Yes, please send me an email on that if you would, and we'll get that on Tyler's list to check out. So if you've got breakers that are off, let us know. Why do we have to replace appliances if they work? You don't need to replace appliances if they work. If your appliances work, do not replace them. This is in regards to if they don't work. Units unlocked. We have your key. If we have your key, if you've confirmed that, you don't need to leave your unit unlocked. No, we don't. When will notification available or map of remediation? When will notification be available or map of remediations? Again, I think later this week, I'm hopeful. If we only took 1 to 2 inches of water, why can't we take some extra effort to keep the countertops and remove all the cabinets? As a full-time resident, I'm very concerned about making our condo living available ASAP. I think I covered that. I mean, they're going to try to save the countertops for sure. No doubt about that. But I just was being realistic from talking, not just with Clyde Johnson, but other contractors that I've talked with that, removing countertops, they're going to try their best, but if they're not saved, they're going to be covered in the claim. So based on what you're saying, all alliances like refrigerator, appliances, dishwashers that have insulation in them should still be running, should be thrown out. Again, potentially, I think, again, it matters how far that water got up. I mean, most of your appliances have legs on them. So, I mean, if your refrigerator took a foot of water, I'm going to imagine that it's probably not working, and you don't need to worry about whether it got in the insulation of the fridge. I think it's probably going to be deemed not workable anyways, or it probably doesn't work. But yeah, I mean, if it touched the porous area, it would need to be discarded. Sutton Walk garages, is there a date for remediation? No, there's not. But again, I think part of that schedule process is being able to forecast at what point in the remediation process of these residential units would they be able to break off and start to focus on things like garages. So hopefully that's on there. For those of us that took the option to use an outside contractor and was approved to do so, will we be paid for that work that was done? Again, hang on to those receipts. And yeah, that's the attempt, is for us to include it in the claim. And at this point, there's no reason to believe that those costs can't be recouped, because that's less work that Clyde Johnson Group had to do. But again, I'm always going to hold out for final approval once it's submitted, because it's the insurance company's call. Will CJC protect my bathtub by removing tile around it? I mean, they're going to try, but there's also concerns that potentially that water got under the tub and possibly along that back wall, in which case that tub's not going to be salvageable. I mean, it's one of the reasons why we're concerned in terms of livability there. Are we allowed to store what is salvageable in our garages? Yes, you are. Yes, just put it in the middle. Who can help us know what is porous and what isn't on personal items? I mean, you can look that up online, but I mean, porous materials, wood, fabric. I mean, metals aren't porous materials. So I mean, that's not a porous. But I just encourage you, again, personal property, I encourage you to do a little bit of research or ask your neighbors. But I mean, porous should be pretty easily identified in terms of porous objects. We did not receive emails with the links to today's Zoom meeting. We received emails for the 10:13 meeting, but not Southmont Code specific emails. Can you look into why? Sure. Nobody's been removed from any mailing list. We definitely had an issue with the Southmont Cove email. For some reason, we had multiple emails bounce back to us first time that's happened, and then we resent it. And about half of those that were bounced back again, and we sent it a third time, and then another half. So we got it down to where about 30 people were bounced. You can always contact the front desk to confirm we've got your right email, but we're not removing anybody from email lists. Sure. Ask me to ask environmental experts what people should do that have been exposed to Cat 3 water. I mean, I can ask them that, but I don't think that they're going to offer a professional opinion on a personal side. I mean, they are hired by the association, but I mean, I'll be happy to ask them. Is the insurance company saying that we're not allowed to use an outsider company to do repairs, or is Lexington and our association, which is a major Pandora's box for lawsuits that will have to foot the bill if the insurance company doesn't cover Lexington and the associations for taking longer to do to them refusing outside help. I understand. I mean, our adjusters, I could tell you, I mean, I've talked to these guys and they're adjusting all over town. Every adjuster has commented at where we're at in the process on the scale that we're at. So, I mean, I get it. We all want things to move faster, but I mean, I don't think it's a fair comment to say that we're behind a bunch of people. Certainly on an individual basis, if you yourself had to go hire somebody, you absolutely probably could do this process faster, but it's unrealistic to think that that's the approach the association would have taken if it's their responsibility to do this. And that would be to charge all 500 of you to do this on your own. I mean, we still have owners that haven't even stepped foot on property since the storm. I mean, how are they going to get people in to do that? So, but yeah, I mean, I think we're very confident in the actions we're taking, in the coverages that we have. And, you know, that's the whole responsibility of your association, is to make sure that they do this right and that they get remediated for those efforts and for the restoration efforts. Recycling. Yeah, good point. I should have mentioned that. I don't know if I did Thursday, but we're hearing recycling will be back on schedule next week. So recycling pickup next week. Yeah, somebody's asking about the 4 feet cut and understanding it, but wondering about the custom trims, mirrors, et cetera. Again, you know, each unit is being adjusted separately, so those things are being noted. And my understanding is that will be included in the claim value. If you had something on your wall that got destroyed because of a 4 foot cut, that'll be on there. So, I think same question here. Custom build-ins are coming out. Who pays for that? Again, there should be claim value associated with that. I mean, those are things the adjusters are noting. Can you leave your golf cart in the middle of the garage? I would think it probably fits in there, still being able to get around it. You know, just envision a crew going around to the walls and cutting the drywall. So yeah. Garage walls at Sutton Walk be painted. I want to hold off because I've had that question before. Who's responsible for painting? I'm assuming that's in that coverage as well, but I just don't remember specifically seeing that. So you know, obviously painting at some point, someone's got to paint. But again, if we could cover those questions in the restoration process, I think I can be better versed to give you an answer on it. Remove cabinet doors and save them. I've had a couple people email me about that. I don't think that's a terrible idea if you got that wherewithal, you know, to remove them and save them, especially if they're custom and you're planning on using the same contractor to come back and do those for you. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. Should we toss curtains? Again, I mean, that would be my approach, my thinking. I mean, that's a porous substance. But again, you can do your own research on personal property. Are Somerset garage walls sheetrock or cement stucco? I don't know, actually. I don't know what the materials are in all the garages. Are adjusters out today doing water mapping? Yep, they're on site today. Will you know when the adjuster will be evaluating your unit? Unfortunately, you won't. I don't even know when when they're doing it. I do know that they're working with your association boards. So if you want to get in contact with them, they may be able to provide you more information on where those folks are right now. But I do not know where each one of them are at and where they're going. So somebody's asking about their walls and drywall been removed, but the tubs and shower are still in place. So they're coming back to do that. Yeah, I think they're waiting probably on the water mapping report to see if that needs to be removed or not. Yeah, concern over seeing rats along back gate at Stockbridge and East Bay. Folks put food in black bags, and these were never picked up along with the debris and dangerous items like glass. Yeah, I first report. If you want to send me an email on that, I know. I mean, I saw Waste Management was here Friday, and they did a pretty good pickup, but it can't mean they got everything. So if you just make me aware of where that is, we'll try to see if we can't get them to grab that. Given what you're saying about porous surfaces, would be advisable to rebuild with non-porous material. I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously, if we had non-porous material in our shower areas now, we probably wouldn't have to be as aggressive on the remediation. So definitely something to think about when you go to restore. Inner doors, yeah, interior doors are covered and will be replaced, and closet doors replaced. Yes, yes. Are the adjusters accepting the water mapping reports and bound by the gold standard remediation? They are. They're working together. So the adjusters that are on site, we have had meetings with them and the water mapping teams, and they are accepting this process. And again, that's why your boards are accepting with that process to start to remediate that way. So you know, and I guess at the end of the day, I mean, if there's a gold standard to do something, and as an association, you know, where we will be reimbursed for that, why would we not do the gold standard? I mean, I don't see any other way. Understandably, yes, it's inconvenient, and maybe it's more involved in the non-gold standard. But if the insurance company says that's how you need to do it, and we're going to cover it, why would we not want to do this right? I can't think of any reason why we would want to take a shortcut here. But can we leave our refrigerator on? Yes, you can. You can leave it on before they get there. Appliances, I think I mentioned that. I mean, I'm encouraging you guys, if your appliance needs to be replaced, to do that on your own. Not to say that we won't have a process in restoration to offer refrigerators or something like that at maybe a discount. I'm just spitballing here, but again, that's down the road, and you may need your fridge long before that. So I would encourage you to replace those things if you can now. Somebody asked, so they only did water mapping in my living room. Is that adequate? I'm not sure. I haven't heard that before, but I mean, we understand what they're mapping, and they're going to give us a report and their findings. So I guess I'm kind of waiting for that report too. So I'm on the 3rd floor, but I just checked my AC filter and I have significant mold. People should be aware and check their filters and their AC and dehumidifiers. Absolutely. I mean, it's very possible too that mold could have been there long before this. So I definitely checking those filters wouldn't hurt if you can take a look at those. Yeah, the person I just talked about, the black water hitting 2nd or 3rd floors. I mean, if you want to send me an email on that, and that's the first report that I've gotten on that, but shoot me an email and we can talk offline. Is concrete porous? My understanding, it's not, but again, I'm not a professional there. But if I recall them talking about cleaning concrete as opposed to having to remediate it or dispose of it. Vertical blinds, porous. I guess I would think that would be a porous material. I mean, non-porous is going to be like a metal or something like that. But again, I'd maybe look that up. Even if not covered, can you have your tiles removed? It's a good time to do so. No, I mean, at this point, we're not going to go down the path of having special requests for removal. When you get into restoration, you can certainly contract out for those floors to be removed if you want to get rid of your tile. That'll be up to you. Is there a list of approved contractors that we can begin to engage for restoration? At this point, not specifically for that, but I mean, you can access the normal approved vendor list if you want. And I think there's some good resources there for contractors. Our hope is that we can provide some additional information on that as we get closer to that process and get organized. You just stated the insurance company will not cover cabinets not affected by water. Why then are you saying cabinets are going to be removed? Again, I mean, I'm if it's deemed that the cabinets need to be removed because of the water intrusion, then that's going to be covered under the policy. I think the question I was answering is in regards to upper cabinets. If the upper cabinets don't show water intrusion, or that they were touched by water, or there's concern that there's water on up that far on the drywall, then those aren't going to be removed and they wouldn't be covered. So hopefully I cleared that one up. What are the walls in Somerset garages made? I don't know that question answer. I don't know how long you need to be out of Somerset villas. Hopefully we'll have a better indication in a week or two. Can we take the signs down that are advertising to everyone that walks by them that the units must be kept unlocked for the work crews and anyone else who comes by or tells their friends at all? Yeah, I'm not familiar with any signs that Lexington put up. Maybe your association put up signs. The only sign that Lexington put up was just a start work order sign that we did a week or so ago on every unit door. So if you've got a different sign on your door, I would encourage you to talk to your association leadership because they would have put those up. Upper floor units that appear to be damaged, appear to be undamaged, still be inspected and water map. Absolutely. I mean, our focus right now is residential, but the association is charged with all units, so those all will be inspected. We have put out information the last few days, earlier this week. If you've got an upper floor unit that something is an issue, email Jen Rosenkrantz and give her that list. If it's something that's recognized as a priority, they'll get somebody on it right away. If it's something that can wait until we hit this next phase of remediation, then they'll check it then. So can CJC save doors and drawer fronts? They're not going to do that as part of their remediation effort. But I mean, if you have somebody that wants to come in and pull those out, I think you're talking about cabinets. You can certainly do that, especially when it comes to a custom cabinet. But that's not something that'll happen when they do the full scale remediation. Yeah, if you replace your AC unit, hang on to your receipts. Don't submit that receipt now. Who decides if our appliances are impacted and need to be disposed of? When will we know that? If you're here and you want to check it out and it's not working, you can proceed to do that. If you're not here, eventually those things will also be inspected and checked. So, yeah, so main pool open. So yeah, that's the best unkept secret at Lexington. We have not officially opened the main pool, and the reason is we're trying to get Clyde Johnson and his crew more organized in the back of the parking lot, because if you've been up here lately, especially around that main pool area, there's a lot of trucks coming and going, and we really didn't want to encourage a lot more member traffic up here. But I can tell you that I think as we get into this next week, and I've already talked to Angie, she has a plan, and we do as well, to try to open up that pool officially, as well as start aerobics and some other classes. So stay tuned on that. I'm going to do about 2 more questions, and then I need to get ready here and prepare for the next meeting. So if I don't get to your questions, you can, we may not do a Zoom tomorrow. I need to confirm my schedule in the morning, but we may do one in the morning tomorrow. So I'll let you know. But if I don't get to your question, then log on early to the next Zoom and put your question up top. Yeah, again, somebody's asking here because they removed some tile on the wall, but not the floor, and you're afraid it won't match. Can they remove the floor? At this point in the process, no, but in the restoration process, absolutely. That's where I would take care of that. My email address, jburden. It's J-B-U-R, B as in boy, U-R D as in dog, E, N as in Nancy, jburden@lexingtoncountryclub.com. When will the associations recommence holding open board meetings since the emergency is now over? I don't know that question. Maybe that's one to pose to your association leadership, but I mean, at least in my eyes, we're still under an emergency here. But you can ask them. I don't know about LCA. I know there was some talk about maybe getting a board meeting together, but I don't have any time frame on that. So hopefully someone will have information to put out. Did you just say move our appliances out? The adjuster said mine would have to be replaced. Yeah, I mean, if your adjuster said that they were replaced and you 100% confirm that, when you say your adjuster, as long as you're talking about the master flood policy adjuster, because if you have a personal flood claim and your personal adjuster came and said that he's going to write up those fridges, that technically isn't on that policy. That's going to be on the master flood policy. So I would just make sure of that. Do we have to have a service person document that our appliance does not work due to flood? I don't know. I would say no. I'm just guessing, but I would say take a picture of your unit, even if you can video it that it's not running. Anything you can do to save any evidence would help. But I can tell you these adjusters recognize that a lot of these units that took a lot of water, the appliances are going to be affected, and they've really worked with us to make sure that we've got everything covered on these reports. All outside air conditioning units were exposed to floodwater. Should they be replaced even if they are currently working? Will the Waterford insurance cover said replacement? So my advisement to people in those aspects, because that's what we're hearing is, hey, they're fine now, but they're going to be bad in 6 months. At this point, I can't guarantee you the insurance company is going to take an invoice that you turn in where an outside contractor not contracted by the association under the insurance policy is going to reimburse you for a piece of equipment that hadn't failed, just on the chance that it may fail. So my suggestion has been, if it's absolutely broken, I don't think there's going to be a problem. If it's not broken, I think you're assuming a little bit of a risk there. It may be that the insurance company does accept that. I just don't know. That's, again, not my decision or the association. So my suggestion has been run it until it does break on you and then get it fixed. But again, you can proceed how you want with ACs, and we'll do our best to get whatever expenses you have onto that claim. Is it possible to have someone from Lexington to meet with my adjuster? Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I can't have Lexington staff involved with personal adjusters and things like that. I mean, I would strongly encourage, if you can't be here, maybe find a neighbor, maybe find a home watch person, or if you don't have one of those, engage a home watch person and they can help you. Yeah, there's a question here about, and you all can read it if you want, talking about black mold. Again, folks, we're not talking about black mold here. We're talking about black water. Okay, black water contains a slew of contaminants in it. This isn't a mold issue per se. So, I mean, again, do what you want on your own stuff, but this is not black mold we're talking about. It's black water, Cat 3 water. Google search it. It's all there. But again, do make your own decisions on your personal property. CJC damaged plumbing during remediation. Will they repair it? Absolutely. And I can tell you, with the age of these buildings, it probably won't be the first pipe that's busted when we're doing remediation or even restoration. I mean, we're going to have to deal with those things. That's part of the process. If we renovate ourselves, do the labor and work, will we be reimbursed for our own individual costs? That's a great question. I don't know that. I think that's a question that's worth asking the insurance company, once we get the reports and that sort of thing. And I think that's a fair question to ask them, because a lot of you do have the wherewithal to do it yourself. Certainly the materials you buy shouldn't be a problem. I guess it's on the labor side, how they're going to view that. But I honestly don't know that. Are we serving lunch this weekend? That's the question of the day. That's awesome. I may end on that one. Yes, we are. We have buffets. I got a buffet today. They're doing I don't know if it's a buffet tomorrow or if it's a la carte. Really, Chef Leon and Chris have done a great job handling the F&B program, and I've really kind of stayed out of it. But I know they're doing something with NFL football, so come up and root on your favorite team as long as they're not the Giants, because you play my favorite team tomorrow. But yeah, we are serving lunch and food and beverage, getting back to a normal schedule next week. Brand new menu coming out. So pay attention to that. So, folks, I do have to run. I'm sorry if I missed your question. If you want to email it to me, that's fine. Give me at least 24 hours to get back here on email. But anybody that's emailed me, I will get back to you within 24 hours. I promise you 100%. And I'm really trying to return all your phone calls. I think I'm at 100% on that, and I'm at 100% on text. So if you contact me and I don't respond, then I've made a mistake, and just recontact me. So have a good day, everybody. Take care, and just kind of keep the positive attitude going best you can, and we'll keep moving things forward. Thanks.